is that we have around a 45-minute presentation, and then we have 15 minutes at the end for question and answers. And what we typically do is we encourage students to ask their questions first. If there are no student questions, we will move to faculty questions, but we'll try to start with students first. So today I'm really excited to welcome Dr. Christian Miller, who's a professor of philosophy at Wake Forest University. He is one of the forerunners, preeminent scholars on honesty, and has been working on this for the last decade. He got a very large research grant from the Templeton Foundation to seed research on honesty. And maybe 10 years ago, this didn't seem like it was such an important topic, but it's become more and more important over time. So we're really excited to welcome him. He's written a number of books. One in particular is called The Character Gap, and that one is about defining what it means to have good character and some of our misconceptions that we might have about what it means to have good character. So I'd like to ask you to join me today in welcoming to the stage Dr. Christian Miller.
All right. So I'm not a podium person. Can you hear me okay in the back? Good? Yes, all right. Good with the recording? All right. So, great to be back. This has become an annual tradition that my family and I love coming here. It's really one of the highlights of our years. Joy to be with you. We had a great day already. The students probably are totally sick of me and don't want to hear anything more, but we had a class, we had lunch, we had a small group meeting, so now we got the lecture. And let's just get right to it because we don't have a huge amount of time. This is work that is going to be finding its way in a new book that's coming out in the spring called exactly that. That's the title of the new book coming out of Oxford probably around May or April. Some of the inputs sharing with you. So you're one of the first ones to hear about these ideas, and you can correct me while maybe there's a little bit of time to correct me and fix what I'm saying. This is, we already mentioned, work that comes out of the Honest Project, so if you want to see what we're doing at Wake Forest on the topic, this is our website. What maybe, I don't even need to cover this part of it, but I think it's, maybe it's worth saying something about why honesty is important, why we should spend our time thinking about it, researching it, caring about it, trying to grow in honesty. Here are a couple reasons. We are inspired by some books of honesty, like that person right there. We show respect for others, treat them as persons with dignity, and demonstrate that we value their autonomy. This makes a lot of sense. Honesty promotes trust and credibility and prevents harm. That also makes a lot of sense. Fosters healthy relationships and strengthens organizations and society. So I don't think I'm saying too much that's controversial so far. It's a virtue, it's important to cultivate society in general, and it should be part of a good moral education. Moving on. Here's some empirical research we did at Wake Forest, investigating the importance of honesty from a different perspective. So participants were asked, when it comes to liking someone, respecting someone, and what you want to know about someone, when it was a matter of lots and lots of characteristics. Look what goes to the top. All these different characteristics. All these different characteristics. All these different characteristics. The number one in all three cases was honesty. Again, what do you like the most about someone? They're honest. What do you respect most about someone? They're honest. What do you want to know about someone? Whether they're honest or not. Bubbles up to number one. And then finally, the different angle, yet again, is what happens when honesty is missing. Well, it makes a big difference. Who's that? You shout out. Who is it? Bernie Madoff, that's right. You know who that is? Go look up afterwards. Who's that? Anything for free? Very good. Crypto guy. Who's that? Come on.
Romeo and Juliet?
Romeo and Juliet. Okay, yes. Right. Steve's all get along, I guess. It was very sad and tragic, and wish it had worked out. It was supposed to work out. But it didn't. Why did it not work out? That she did. Same thing in that case, right? We all know who that is. Was there dishonesty involved? We don't even know how many times. but there's a lot. How about that one? Different kind of example. What happened there? College admissions scandal, yes. Tried to kind of bend the rules to give an advantage to one of the daughters as far as getting into college. And it was definitely cheating, it's definitely dishonest. And no one knows about that website, I hope. And I hope you never know about that website. But unfortunately, millions and millions of people know about it, and know about it, but they use it to facilitate having an affair. So when it's missing, it makes a big difference. Not only when it's present, but also when it's missing. And so I think if we can make the case that honesty is important, we should pay attention to it, and let's study it. Sorry, what the heck are we even talking about? What is honesty? I'm a philosopher. I can't get too far into any topic unless I define my terms, right? Reading students, yes. You've all been trained here. We've got to get some clarity about the concepts before we can investigate it further. So what is honesty? I'm thinking about it as a virtue, studying virtue ethics, or the virtue and character, the virtue of honesty, understood the character trait part of our character of who we are, how we're disposed to think, feel, and act. A character trait which is well, that's a terrible expression. What does that mean? That means that you're honest not just in a lecture or in the classroom, but also at the party, at your dorm room, at home, at the office, across a variety of different situations. Makes sense, right? Not just on Tuesdays. That'd be really weird, right? Every day, repeatedly, over time, day in and day out, week in and week out, month in and month out, stably over time. It better be an excellence. It'd be really weird if it was a bad thing and it was a virtue. So it better be a really good part of your character. Has to do with your thinking. An honest person thinks that telling the truth is important. Thinks that keeping promises is important. Not stealing is important. Not lying, not cheating are important. But also motivationally, matters what you're motivated to do. And of course, the behavior had better be a big component of it as well. It would be strange if honest if it was just a matter of what's going on here and not what you're doing in the world. All that is crucial to honesty. Let me say a little bit more about these last two. There's only so much I can do with the time, so I'll stay on those. Of course, it has to do with behavior. What's the number one form of behavior that it prevents? Shout out. When you think of honesty, what does an honest person not do? Lying, right? That's always number one. It works against lying. However, that's not it. As far as the entire case. Of course, giving a lot of space here. I'm giving you a hint. There's a lot more to honesty than just preventing lying. Shout out another thing. Cheating. Shout out another thing. Corruption. Very good. Shout out another thing. Deception? Yes, absolutely. Very good. Shout out another one.
Spreading misinformation.
Misinformation. Very good. Yes. So cheating, stealing, promise breaking, hypocrisy, self-deception. I didn't know what I was allowed to say, so I just said BSing, misleading. You all gave us a couple more. It's not going to be an exhaustive list. Fraud, you can also put down a list. Lots of different behavior falls under the purview of honesty, and it prevents that kind of stuff. But what is it at its core? So, what is it if we say, how would we define honest behavior at its core that pertains to all those different things? I say it's this. An honest person does not intentionally distort the facts as he or she sees them. Does not, on purpose, misrepresent reality as that person perceives it. Does not misrepresent themselves, so that'll be self-deception. Does not misrepresent others, say in terms of lying or stealing or cheating. And we're not trying to really flesh that out or defend it, but let me at least take the facts part because it's really interesting. I find this maybe a little bit counterintuitive, but important to highlight with an example. So I like I like so excited I couldn't speak. I like audience participation. So I'm going to ask you to vote in just a second about this example. As a member of the Fine Arts Society, Samantha sincerely believes in pure class. One day she is asked by a friend about the shape of the earth, and the keeper on believes the secret Samantha tries to mislead her friend and replies the earth is round. She succeeds, and now her friend assumes that Samantha believes the earth is round. Okay. Is there a flat earth society? By the way, there is. There's a prominent NBA player who's been associated with it. That's not what I'm talking about here. That's not really essential. But if you know anything about that, go look it up there. If you don't know anything about it. But I want to hear your intuitions about this case. So she believes there's this flat, but she tells her friend that the earth is round. Is she being honest? People say she's being honest. People say she's not being honest. Okay. Now, look, she's telling the truth though, in the sense of the earth really is round. So what she's saying is correct. Objectively speaking, that's the correct answer. But she's not telling the truth in another sense. She's not telling the truth about her own beliefs. She's misrepresenting to her friend how she in fact sees the world. Okay? So honestly, it isn't a matter of just getting the truth correct. It's a matter of communicating, in this case, how you actually see the world, even if you see the world wrong. Look at this. Suppose it says Samantha's forthright. She tells her friend that she believes the earth is flat and has no intention to mislead her friend at all. In this case, is she being honest? Yes. Even though she's mistaken. Badly mistaken. But she's honest. So it's a matter of how you see the world, not how the world actually is. That matters with respect to honesty. So you can have things like this: a true belief and a true assertion, of course, to be honest. But you can have a false belief and a false assertion right here, and still be honest. And you get out of there a true false belief, a true assertion, of course, that's dishonest. And a true belief, a false assertion, can be dishonest as well. So, lots of more to say there. Anyone wants to ask questions about that, of course, ask me there. Just to wrap this up, here's the illustration for lying, how this works. I say, an honest person reliably does not intentionally distort the facts as she believes them to be, by telling lies about those facts to others. What's that going to be? The famous example, I asked a room of 300 educators, middle school educators, how many times they get this. They said they get it a lot. I was surprised. Smith tells the teacher that the dog ate his homework. Right? They get that excuse a lot. Of course, that's not what happened. So what's going on? The student is intentionally distorting the facts, misrepresenting what happened to the teacher in order to not get punished. That's dishonest. What about motivation? Real brief on this too. I think any self-interested motivation is not going to be honest. Not going to be compatible with the virtue of honesty. If you're just telling the truth, or not lying, or cheating, or stealing, for the sake of benefiting yourself, great that you're doing that. Thumbs down on the motivation. It's not virtuous. Otherwise, I think lots of kinds of motivation are just fine. Give me an example, make it more concrete. Why did you cheat on a test when you could have got away with it? Okay, what could be some answers? That would not interfere. How's that sound here? Yeah, good, right? That's virtuous, that's fine. I don't want to disrespect Professor Miller. Even better, right? We should all be nodding. This is great. Great answer. What if everyone were to cheat? That would be a terrible world to live in. How's that? It's fine. It would not have been honest. How's that? That's right. Maybe not some of them more than the others, but are they going to preclude someone from being virtuous? I don't think so. Lots more to be said there. Lots of different kinds of motivation are okay, but I didn't put this on the slide. What if it had been, why did you cheat on the test? I was afraid of getting punished if I got caught. Thumbs down. Right? Why did you cheat on the test? I didn't want to feel guilty afterwards. Thumbs down. Why did you cheat on the test? Because God would have known and not rewarded me in the afterlife. It's a very different kind of motivation. Also, I think thumbs down, that's self-interested. All about benefiting yourself, and it doesn't count as virtuous. But these are fine, in my opinion. We can talk more about that. And I do say a lot more about that in the book, which has nothing to do with giraffes, other than that's my mother's artwork, and so that's why it's on the cover. a book that came out in 2021, where I tried to develop my view. All right. Now I want to get to the main thing for today, which is not so much what is honesty, but how are we doing today as a society, and where are the points of encouragement and where are the points of discouragement. Okay? That's what I want to focus on. So I could just jump into the depressing stuff, like, oh, we're doing really crappy, and here's why. I do want to do something positive, though. Like, I didn't want to make you like leave this talk and be really depressed and like, oh, this is really a downer. So I'm going to give you some cool, encouraging news, and then I'm going to give you the depressing stuff. Okay? Deal? Don't tell me, but tell yourself. How many lies have you told in the past 24 hours? And don't lie to yourself, by the way. Try to be honest with yourself. Don't tell it out loud, but just answer in your mind. How many lies have you told in the past 24 hours? Do you think it's a lot? You can also ask yourself, how many lies have other people you know told? Are they higher or lower than yours? Here's what one study found by one of the most prominent people who works on a psychology line. Community participants average one self-reported lie per day, and students who, of course, are worse than everyone else, were two self-reported lies per day. Is that high? Is that low? Is that higher than you? Lower than you? You can answer for yourself. And this was just an assumption or kind of finding that was taken for granted for many years. That had the implication being lying behavior is commonplace. People lie every day. It's just who we are. So I thought, Miller, you said this was encouraging. That's discouraging. That's not great. But here's the encouraging part. That kind of finding is too simplistic because it papers over or glosses over how averages work. Right. Here's a more recent research study by this person right here. No matter who it is, just we're going to get the data. Same average, 1.65 lies were told per day, so more the same. But averages distort distributions. And what's really interesting is the distribution line amongst the participants. Highly skewed. Look at that. 60% said they did not tell a lie at all during the past day. More than half. The majority of people don't lie at all. Of the participants who did lie, most of them told very few lies. So, majority not telling any lies at all, and of the ones who do, most of them are telling very few lies. Here's a little bit more meat on that. 1,600 lies were reported total, but half of them are coming from just 5.3%. So you got some real prolific liars who are skewing the average. They're churning out a whole bunch of lies, and then you average over that, of course, well, it's going to seem like it's a fair amount. You don't like it that way, here's a visual, maybe you're a more visual person. Look here, 60% told no lies. 40% told lies, but of that 40%, that's what this is, of the 40%, number of lies told, only one, 14%, only two, 8%. Very few, then you get this group over here. You probably don't want to be friends with them, right? That's the scary group. That's the rampant, I don't care at all about the truth, I'm going to lie, I'm going to get it. Okay, got the idea? Got the point? So I thought that it's pretty encouraging. Here's a follow-up study, not just one-off, but tracking people over time for 3 months. Similar results. 2.03 lies per day. Lowest number of lies in a day was 0. Okay, no surprise there. Highest was 200. Wow. Know anyone like that? Oh, you do? Okay, maybe that's, I was surprised. Maybe that's not surprising to you. I wonder if that's really honest, though. Maybe they're just making up their BSing on that one. And then two participants said they never lied once during the 3 months. I don't know about that. I think that's also yes. So, question but, here's the same phenomena. Those averaging 0 to 2 lies per day, 75%. Intermediate liars, only 20%, and then those prolific liars, the scary ones, 5.7%, averaging more 6. Okay. So I think we got the point. Most of us are not prolific, and truthfulness is the consistent pattern. It's kind of the default assumption for most people. I think that's great. So there's the encouragement. There's the rate. How about that? You might say, okay, that's in person. But we live our lives so much online today. Online is a cesspool of vice. Not necessarily. Dating websites. LinkedIn. Facebook. 3 examples, not the only ones, I'm just being selective here. Not much dishonesty. We can talk about why if you like the Q&A. Visual. 2 participants, every social interaction, here is face-to-face. In comparison to social media is lower. Text is lower, not significantly different. Email is lower with respect to involving a line. Phone is a bit higher, and video chat is a bit higher. But look, the key thing here is these 3 were lower in face-to-face. That also I find to be pretty encouraging. So there's the end of the encouragements. That's the good news. You can feel uplifted for the moment while I get a drink. You can prepare yourself for the bad days. Well, ready? Here we go. After all, the title of the book is The Honesty Crisis. Crisis is not a positive word. What are honesty crises? I'm going to define them like this. They have 2 main features. Dishonesty has become more tempting or appealing than it was before, and it's become easier to get away with than it was before. That's a bad combination. You're going to have one of these honesty crises when it's more appealing to be dishonest than it was before, and easier to get away with. That's not a good mix. Where do I see them happening? Well, I see them happening in a variety of places in the book. I only focus on 6, so it's not meant to be all of them. You can, of course, give me other examples where you're worried about the same thing. Top of the list. Do I need to say more about that? Is that familiar? Maybe I see a mixture in the audience here. Maybe some are not familiar with others, but at least I'm speaking to the students. Do I need to say more? That one. Deepfakes, celebrity, sermon plagiarism, and political misinformation. Quite a varied group. I don't claim that there's like any continuity here. It's kind of scattershot. But all of these are areas where I'm quite worried about honesty being under attack. Okay. For the sake of time, I'm guessing that that's quite familiar, and I'm not going to elaborate on it. I'm guessing that that also is quite familiar. You go online to chat rooms, you go online to places like Ashton Madison, you go online and see the extensive array of pornography, plenty of opportunity to be dishonest on when it comes to infidelity. So those are the podcasts. Let me talk about the other 4 though. And I think actually I'm only going to do at least maybe just 3 of them. Deepfakes. How many of you are familiar with deepfakes? Not that you made one, hopefully I should be real clear. I'm not saying you made one, but that you're familiar with them, you've seen them, you know what they are. This one I'll be brief on. Here's an illustration. How many of you know this particular deepfake? The Biden audio deepfake from the last campaign. Okay. What a bunch of malarkey. It's important you save your vote for the November election. Voting this Tuesday only enables Republicans to request to elect Donald Trump again. Your vote makes a difference in November, not this Tuesday. And here's the context. So, people in New Hampshire, during the primary, not the May election, but the primary, heard this when they answered the phone. This message. Okay, got it? Now, what's key to this is, whose voice did that sound like? Biden, right? That's what's key to this example. There's someone, a random person, or it was Trump saying that. Okay, well, why would we be featuring that? But it was Biden's voice, or at least it sounded like Biden's voice. But it was okay, Joe Biden robocall. However, if you had heard that, what would you have thought? You would have thought it was a recording of Biden's voice. It was so well done that you would not have been able to tell the difference, and you would have thought Biden is sending this message out. Of course, you would have immediately wondered, what the heck? Why would he send a message out? Like, why would he be satisfied on the campaign and so forth? So, okay, you thought that. But the point is, it was so well done, and of course, it was manipulated, it was fake. He didn't actually record that message, but you would not have been able to tell the difference. That's an example of why it did fake. Clear? Here's a video one. Anyone know this campaign? This is advertisement. Who's that? Sorry, out of the screen. But anyone know the actual ad? Anyone see that? Okay. This is from a little bit ago. So, of course, that's David Beckham, the soccer star. In this, he's promoting malaria must die, the cause of the organization, and he's promoting on their behalf, working towards the eradication of malaria, which, hear me loud and clear, I'm a big fan of working towards eradication of malaria. I'm not in any way confusing that in this talk. But the key thing about this is, he speaks 9 languages. Does he really? No, he does not. In the video, it smoothly transitions from English to Mandarin and to 7 other languages. And it looks like he knows all of them. And the mouth movements are perfect for that language. And it's quite well done, very well done. So here's the context. And yet, 8 of those 9 were fake. If you want to check it out, you can later. Okay? So that's an example of a video deepfake. What's going on? It's a recording that is made by someone else to simulate something that never in fact happened. And it's done so well, it doesn't have to be done well, but this one was done so well that it looked like it was the real thing. Now I'm giving you these 2 examples. I'm not giving you by far the most prevalent kind of example of a deepfake. What's that? Who said it? Whoever said it is correct. Yeah, I'm calling you out. You're right. Deepfake pornography, by far, is the most prevalent kind of deepfake. How far? 98% of deepfakes that are made today are pornographic deepfakes. They involve some, in the typical scripts is something like this, and they're very gendered, so it's a female singer or actress's face that is deepfaked into a video, pornographic video, where that face replaces the face of an actress in the video. So it looks like, Taylor Swift is a very popular one, Scarlett Johansson is a very popular one, that one of them is involved in this pornographic act. Of course they're not, but it's so well done that it looks like it. Got the idea? Don't need to say anything more. I would not recommend checking it out, but that's the most prevalent kind. So, in all of these, I think you've got dishonesty going on. Unless it's explicitly said that with a disclosure indicating that this is dishonest. I mean, this is dishonest. That it is a deepfake. Didn't happen. That Biden audio didn't happen. The pornographic deepfakes didn't have these disclosures. So, as a result, I say they're dishonest. Now, again, I'm not going to go through the pornographic one and then use this one. Look, Beck never said those words. He was never recorded saying anything in 8 languages. He didn't even know 8 languages. Those weren't his real expressions. He never addressed his audience in that way. He never intended to be speaking to an audience in those languages. And the organization didn't hire, pay, train, support, addressing the intended audience in these languages. All these respects, it's dishonest. Now, hear me again. Am I opposed to malarial relief or elimination? No, of course not. Was this campaign dishonest? I say yes. Was it wrong? Didn't automatically follow, but it was dishonest. Okay. And one more to add to this. I forgot I had one more. So here's the number. The creation, distribution, and sharing of deepfakes is becoming increasingly common. Typically, deepfakes are dishonest unless there's an explicit disclosure. Therefore, I worry that we will be facing an honesty crisis here. Got the idea? See how this works? The reasoning, the logic? Okay. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip this one, so this is going to be light and fast. Sorry, really want to talk about celebrity. I actually talked about it here in the past. So I'm going to skip over. You can ask me about it. I'll do this one. This one I find is, believe it or not, the most controversial of the ones I talk about. I never would have thought this. I thought this was like clear cut, but you never know what you're gonna find out. So here's this is going to be an example involving sermons. It doesn't apply just to sermons, though. It's any kind of religious setting in which there's a presentation of material. It would apply. Plagiarize. Let no one else's work evade your eyes. Remember why the good Lord made your eyes. So don't shade your eyes, but plagiarize. Only read. Sure, always please. Research. Interesting, isn't it? Kind of striking quotes. Song that you would think preachers and ministers and so forth would not want to engage in this kind of activity that they would think would be unethical and antithetical to what they're all about. Yes. Several years ago, my father-in-law returned home from a trip to South Carolina. Oops, sorry. And said, funny thing, when I went to my church on Sunday, I heard the same sermon I heard in South Carolina. What? We'll skip that one in the interest of time. Just go to the bottom one. As a young staff pastor at Church of the Pacific Northwest, this guy said he and his colleagues would be constantly on the lookout for good ideas in other churches. They even had an inside joke about it. If you have eyes, plagiarize. Lots of jokes like this, where sermons are popping up all over the place. And duplicate sermons elsewhere. How does this work? You're presenting someone else's work in the pastor's sermon. So the material's coming elsewhere. By the way, directly parallels student plagiarism. Parallels are stunning. But there's no credit. And it doesn't even matter if the source is given permission for other pastors to use materials in the sermon. So you're using material, you're not crediting the original source, and even if the original source had granted permission, that doesn't mean it's not plagiarism. Same thing actually works in the student case too, which we should explore. When his father asked about using some of his son's sermon material in his own sermons, this guy here, who leads a 15,000 person per week mega church in Texas, told his father, Dad, you don't need to ask. If my bullet fits your gun, then shoot it. But that's awful. But that's plagiarism. If there's no credit given to the original source. So when a pastor does plagiarize, the pastor is intentionally distorting the facts. Why? You're presenting the material as if it were his or her own when it actually belongs to someone else. You're misrepresenting the source or the origin of the material. So you're being dishonest to the congregation, you're being dishonest to the original source, you're being dishonest to the church, and you're being dishonest, if you think there is a God, to God and to yourself. So manifold ways in which this is dishonest behavior. So to the people that you're speaking to, the person who came up with the original material, to the church at large that you're supposed to be representing, and to yourself and the higher power. And yet, of the following sermon elements, which do you believe can ethically be used from the sermons of others without giving credit? Only the last well-worded sentences or phrases. What? The main outline points, metaphor, sermon titles, illustration. The main idea? What? Wait a minute. You can take someone else's main idea, present it as if it were your own, not give them credit. And you think that's ethical? I don't think so. So, it's not like this is new. This has been around for a long time. Here's an amusing example from way back in the day. King James was so outraged by the plagiarists from preachers that he made a law requiring preachers to give at least one original sermon a month. It's a high standard. Setting the bar high there. What's changed is the availability of internet resources. And what's changed even more is that. So just as in the student case. In the student case, cheating has been around forever. It ramped up with Google, it ramped up with the internet, stuff you can find online, and now it's ramped up even more with AI. Same thing's going on in the sermon case. It's been around forever, ramped up with the internet resources, but still, it's not great. It can be tracked, still need to do some work. Not anymore with AI, not tracked, and you don't have to do much work. Type 2 sentences to AI, you got a sermon. Okay, so here's the dot point there, becoming increasingly common. Plagiarism is dishonest, therefore whether we would be facing an honesty crisis. Here I promise you that we actually are. Not will be, but we actually are facing an honesty crisis. Okay. At this point, I need to make a strategic choice. I could either talk about this example and leave you with no strategies for how to become better. Or I can see this example and talk about strategies for combating honesty crisis. I can't do both, so I'm going to let you decide. How many of you want to hear about this crisis, but then be left with no encouragement about what to do next? How many people want to not hear about this crisis, but be left with some encouragement about what to do next? Oh, wow, I didn't expect that. So you can ask me about this one. This obviously is a huge one today. I talk about what is fake news, what incentivizes people to share fake news, and how I think there's an honesty crisis in this area when it comes to sharing fake news. But I'm going to skip that and get to the end. Here's the takeaway point though. Social media is making it easier to share fake news, increase the appeal of doing so. Sharing fake news is dishonest. I agree. We may actually change the sense of that. We are facing an honesty crisis here. Okay? So there's 6 of them. AI student cheating, internet infidelity, celebrity, political misinformation. Did not go into detail about those. Sermon plagiarism, and deepfakes. With me? Hanging there? Still awake on a end of the day on a Thursday? Last second. What can be done to try and curb these? I'm going to go through these. I'm going to talk about some examples and reach back to what we talked about, even though we didn't cover them in detail. I'm hoping that it'll still make sense. So I'm going to suggest, first of all, no surprise. If I had a magic formula, I would be extremely successful and famous and so forth, but I'm none of that. There's no magic formula here. You're going to need multiple strategies. They're not going to apply equally to each honesty crisis. They're going to need to be tailored to each particular crisis. Having said all that, I'll leave you with 4 general ideas. 4 sources of encouragement to try and push back against these honesty crises and see if we can do something to mitigate them. Here's the first step, being really clear about the boundaries of what is honest and what is dishonest. So our components of building a culture of honesty is the importance of the leader, ideally the entire institution, the entire community, being very clear about what is and what is not going to count as permissible behavior when it comes to honesty. For example, are your professors being really clear about what the boundaries of AI use is? The boundaries of internet use. This is allowed, this is not. Otherwise, there's always the response, well, I didn't know. I thought this was okay. I thought this was honest. How was I supposed to know? So I think that's really, and being in harmony, everyone's on the same page, professors are aligned, leaders are aligned, Same thing in the religious context, not just picking on students here. So everyone's clear. In the case of a particular church, the leadership is instructing the pastor, here's what you can do, here's what you can do. Second step. Now this one is a mixed bag, I will admit, but make it more costly to be dishonest. So increase the cost. You can do that legally, through legal means. For example, with deepfakes, there's this act that was introduced in 2023, fines and even jail time. So you can institute punishments through legal means. There's also just discipline in the context of the academics again. We'll go back to that example. Increase the punishment in this way. Now, I'm two minds about that. First of all, it's really hard to detect this kind of thing. Secondly, punishment in general, is that going to foster a virtue? Right? If you're not doing the thing because you're afraid of the punishment, that's self-interested. That's not virtuous motivation. So I'm in two minds about it. But on the other hand, if it curbs the bad behavior, that's a plus. So do I take better behavior with not great motivation? Or do I take worse behavior? I think I take better behavior with not great motivation. See what I mean? I'll take that even though it's not the best. I want good behavior with good motivation. I'll take good behavior with not so great motivation over bad behavior. Okay. There's more that we said here in terms of the costliness. There's accountability, which we could talk about. I didn't really get into this in terms of this more celebrities, accountability programs, so I think I'll support with that for now. Here's a third step. I'll expand on this a bit more. This is very interesting. Remind people of their values. Remind people of the importance of honesty and how they believe that honesty is important. Because it turns out it's not like people think honesty doesn't matter. For the most part, people care about honesty. Remember that early slide? Honesty was number one. Liking, respecting, and wanting to know about others. Most of us generally believe that dishonest actions are morally wrong. We shouldn't do them. It's important to be honest, and honesty is a good thing. So remind everyone of that. When we get distracted by social media, we get distracted by almost in our self-interest, what would benefit us, it helps to have reminders that get us back on track to appreciate what we've done. Two examples, honor codes. I've talked about this here before in past years, and accuracy prompts. Run through real quickly. So, honor codes first. Here's a study which I like to cite a lot. It involves this setup. So it's going to take a second, but I think it's really, really worth it. Imagine you're part of a study, you're told to take a test with 20 problems, 50 cents per correct answer. Pretty cool, right? Like, hey, I get 50 cents per correct answer, I can get $10 max. Sign me up. In the control condition, they only got 3.4 correct. Okay, so it's a hard test. Not getting much money, but they didn't know that at that time. The interesting variation is when there was an opportunity to take the test, destroy your materials, and just verbally report how you did. What do you think is going to happen there? 3.4? Same? Higher, lower? Higher. Okay, shredder condition to shredder materials. Not super high, and we can talk about why that is. Why did you just say 20? That's an interesting question. But here's the point, the next group. Sign the honor code. Honor codes are familiar, right? Everyone here? Whether you have one or you do that or not, just the idea of an honor code. Sign the honor code first, take the exam, shred the materials, verbally report how you did. What do you think? Well, kind of primed you for this, right? It'd be surprising if it was 10. Why would I be used to celebrate this? It's not. It's 3.1. Goes right back down to the base level. What if we have mistakes? $2 per correct answer. More is at stake. More money could be earned. Well, these poor people didn't have a chance. They at least in the performance. This group had a chance to cheat and get paid a little bit more. Interestingly, they didn't go all the way. And yes, that's the key thing. So the hope is that honor codes can curb cheating behavior and more generally promote honesty. And there's no evidence of that. So instead of backing experiments, just looking at how things are working at different schools, you can read it for yourself. Oops, sorry, these are honor code ceremonies at Davidson and Vanderbilt, where the first year class publicly pledges their honor in front of all their classmates. And you see it looks like an experience. Same thing with accuracy prompts. So, how important is it to them to only share accurate news or to not share inaccurate news? So this is the political misinformation. Didn't cover it, but I think you can get the idea. If you prompt people to first think about how important it is to share truthful or accurate information, they're more likely to do so. Or to rate the accuracy of a news or headline. Or, most other survey respondents think it's very important to only share accurate news. Or, how important it is to only share news if they have thought about it in a reasoned rather than emotional way. Or, etc. There are lots of ways to do this, but here's the thing. Systematic review of the results of 20 experiments, 26,000 participants, accuracy prompts significantly decreased participants' intentions to share fake news. Summing it up, honor code serves as a nudge, and accuracy prompt serves as a nudge to shift us into a more honest, accurate mindset. And that's a good thing. And then I think I'm going to leave it there. I had one thing about encouraging love and caring as a way to circumvent dishonesty. But in the interest of time, I really want to hear what you have to say, so I'm going to skip that. I'm going to skip all that. What do you think about these steps? What other steps? Is there any hope? Where are we left? So, that's the fourth one book. Thanks so much, funders, and I'm not. Shoot, I'm making a drink. Yeah.
So we've got about 10 minutes for questions. So if you have a question for Christian, just raise your hand. And then he's going to field his own questions.
I know that you skipped over the political misinformation. You said come back to it. What is the motivation for sharing like political misinformation?
I can go back to it, but so it looks like we often do care about sharing truthful information. However, when we get onto social media, we can often be distracted from the truth, and we can instead get into mindsets that incentivize things like increasing our visibility, boosting our number of followers, becoming better known and connected, these kind of things. So self-serving motivations that could lead us to share something even though we don't think it's true. But it would be useful for reputation purposes. That's one part of the story, at least, it seems like. So the social media environment puts us out of an accuracy mindset and into more of this reputational mindset of enhancing our reputation and our notoriety or prominence in this environment. And then the accuracy prompt, the idea is to remind us of how important honesty is, and shift us out of that mindset back into the accuracy mindset. So I don't know if we have a complete story, but that seems to be part of the story. Yeah, thank you. Students, anything? So back to the definition of honesty, the importance of motivation, good news, the bad news, how to become more honest, anything. Yes?
One of the study I think that we were talking about like asking people prompts about how important accurate news is to them, and then there
picked up on that. Very nice. The straightforward answer to your question is it was self-reported intention to do that in the future, not assessment of their actual behavior of doing that in the future. So it very well could be that they, well, here are a couple possibilities. They're lying about their intentions. That's possible. I think less likely is another possibility, which is that they may intend to do so, but then when they actually comes time, they don't follow through their intention. And so they end up sharing it like they did all along. But the hope is that those are the pessimistic possibilities. The hope is that no, once they're in that active mindset, they will both intend not to share misinformation and follow through with that intention and not do it in the future. But as far as the actual studies, it would only measure self-reported intentions. Yeah, that's there. Others. Other students first. Challenge, please raise objections. Push back. Argue against me. Yes?
What is your thoughts on echo chambers, whether it be like for political information or just other cases?
Yeah. So there could be a lot said about the phenomenon in general, like what my thoughts about whether they're good or bad or what the implications are. Let me try to connect it to the honesty specifically, theme for today. So it seems like that could be a problematic phenomena with respect to honesty because it could further incentivize the sharing of misinformation within an echo chamber. So you are in such a chamber, metaphorically speaking, and you know that you're going to get rewarded for the most part by people you interact with because they're aligned with you. And that's going to boost your reputation and your visibility and your number of followers and your social media connections and all this kind of thing. That can incentivize you to share this information. So, make that more concrete. If you're a Republican echo chamber and lots of people that you're connected to are aligned with you, and you see this thing, and it says, one of the famous ones from 2016 is Pope Francis endorses Donald Trump for president. Now, you know that's not true. But you might be more incentivized to share that because you know it's going to get a big uptick from people you're connected to. And that one, it probably won't because that's just not going to take that seriously. But in another slide I didn't get to, there was one about immigration that participants recognized was not true, but that they were very incentivized to share anyway because they knew people they were aligned with would find it aligned with them. They would resonate with it, but that it would be helpful for them to see it, just forgot me repeating myself now. It would actually feel really helpful if I could show you that example. So I'm going to do that. Instead of just hand waving, I'm going to actually show you the example. Here we go. Here's what the statement we defined on. Over 500 migrant caravanners arrested with suicide attempts. This was rated as accurate by 50% Republicans in our study, but 51% of Republicans said that they would consider sharing it. That's the thing. Now, quick notes before Democrats and more feeling all self-righteous. Same thing happens with Democrats. So it's not a thing. And this kind of connected back to the echo chamber. Republicans in this echo chamber might be trying to share that, even though they don't recognize it. They recognize it's not accurate. And then same thing with Democrats in their chamber.
All right, so kind of a follow-up. So I know like honesty is about not intentionally producing or
Yep. Distorting facts. Yes.
distorting the
Yeah,
facts.
yes, yeah.
What if it's like a majority consensus that something is, like what's the difference between a true belief
Mhm.
and truth itself as an objective thing?
Yeah. So I would
Does
say,
the majority decide what the truth is, or is truth objective and like it doesn't matter what the majority?
now we're in the philosopher's wheelhouse, right?
Yeah.
This is what we're all about. So I would distinguish between a belief, a true belief, and a truth. The truth is just the way reality is. Reality is such that the earth is round. That's the truth. If I have a true belief, my belief captures the way the world really is. Captures the truth. My true belief that the world is round corresponds to the way the world really is. A belief by itself could be true or false. A belief just aims to capture the way the world is. And if it does succeed in capturing the way the world is as a true belief, if it fails, it's a false belief. Consensus can be a helpful guide in trying to get at true beliefs, form true beliefs. If there is scientific consensus that the world is round, I should rely on it. This could be a helpful guide for me to learn what the shape of the earth is. Fair enough? But it's not an infallible guide. So there can be consensus about something and still be a mistake. Thousands of years ago, there was consensus that the earth was flat. That was not a true belief, nor was that the truth. There was consensus. So there was a belief that was mistaken, despite the consensus, because it did not correspond to the way the world actually is. Yeah, I gave you a lot there. Let's get one more? So we started like a few minutes late.
Yeah.
I'm going to go, I'm going to go right, two more. One, two. Yes, good.
Could some of the overlap with the sermons be because they're all drawing from the most popular parts of the Bible? You know, like the New Testament, fishes and the loaves,
Yeah.
John 3:16, stuff like that.
Yeah. That would explain why some sermon topics are more popular than others. Because there's like very prominent passages that everyone likes to preach on, that kind of thing. But what I'm interested in here is, okay, someone presents a sermon on the fishes and the loaves, and they have a sermon illustration. And a sermon illustration involves, this analogy to cooking and making food and, what's involved in preparing bread and fish and so forth. And it's quite elaborate. That's very helpful as an illustration. And this is this person's sermon. And like the congregation benefits, it like elucidates the passage in a new way. Oh, it turns out that exact example was taken from some other pastor's sermon, which was posted online. Or that ChatGPT constructed. And the person who preaches on it never gives any credit. Making it seem as if they were the one who came up with the illustration in the first place. That's plagiarism. And that's dishonest. And that's wrong. So yeah, no surprise that certain topics are more popular than others. But I'm interested in when they're preaching on that topic, where are you getting the material from? If you're getting it from some other source, that's fine, as long as you acknowledge it. You use a commentary, acknowledge it. You use something on the internet, acknowledge it. You use AI, acknowledge it. You use AI stuff and you don't acknowledge it, that's dishonest. Last word. Yes.
This is specific for political figures, but is it virtuous or is it lying if you do it for the, like if they lie to the public as a way to like protect them from the truth or like?
Protect the public from the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very good question. So this is getting into things like benevolent lying or some kind of white lies or protected lies. So lots to be said here. And it's not specific to the political context. So, how's that outfit look on me? How's that dessert taste? How do I look today? Anyone been there? You know what I'm talking about? When I hurt the other person's feelings, so for their sake, you don't tell them the truth. Another context. You're protecting people from murder. So like you're in World War II and the Nazis are looking for the Jews and you're protecting a Jewish family in the basement. And you lie to the Nazis in order to protect the family. Your context. In political matters, for the sake of the country, you lie about whether a military operation is about to occur or not. Right? It is actually scheduled to happen an hour from now, but you don't want the enemy to know about that because then it would ruin the surprise. So you lie to the country and say that we have no military operation planned at this current time. That was the one you had in mind. Yeah, in all three cases, I think we can say this. Dishonest, check. All three cases, it's dishonest. I mean, you said lying. First of all, lying, yes. Dishonest, yes. Morally wrong, it depends. The morally wrong is the key one. And that's more complicated and controversial. I don't think it's controversial as lying, I don't think it's controversial as dishonest. However, people are going to debate about the morality of it. In the white lie cases, lots of people would say they're okay, don't hurt your significant other's feelings. I think they're typically wrong. I can explain why afterwards if you like. In the Nazi at the door example, to save the Jewish family, most people are going to say it's morally acceptable to lie. Although Augustine, Aquinas, Immanuel Kant would all disagree. They're very much the minority. In your example, I'm inclined to say that I don't know the details. We have to get more detail. I would more be inclined to say it's more acceptable. I would put that on the more acceptable side. But I would not want to say all such lying is more acceptable. I think the white lies are typically. All right. I think I'm going to get in trouble now. I don't stop. Yeah, but I'll stick around.
Thank you all for sticking around so long and listening.